Hello my creepy people and welcome back to another video. Today we are redoing Been Drowned, so if anyone joins and they've noticed, I've already done Been Drowned. Yeah, well the first recording, there was an error at the end and I don't know where I last left off at and I can't hear anything since I'm on a stream, so I couldn't figure that out before I recorded. It's fine. So we're just gonna completely redo everything and scrap everything. So here's me going back. Hang on, let me actually socials, CapCut, and I'm just going to go here. Nope, let me delete you, and boom, Ben Drowned's out the door. Anyways, so we're gonna re-record this. I know that my setup may look a little bit different. iOS had a update and now everything looks different, so yeah, this is gonna be interesting for my next upcoming streams, but that's okay. So today, we are learning more about the mysterious, and this time we're learning about Been Drowned. Before reading knowledge. Been Drowned, or Haunted Majora's Mask, is a well-known creepypasta, and later an alternate reality game, created by Alex Hall, also known as Judiciable. The story revolves around a Majora's Mask cartridge that is haunted by the ghost, if it is a ghost, of a boy named Ben. Analysis and updates on a possible addition to the story from the original author can be found on the Judiciable wiki. Go check that out if you're interested. Appearance. Canon take. Ben, before the sacrifice, is seen with peach skin, dark green eyes, and short brown hair. In Ben.WMV, Ben is seen with his eyes closed, but in others he gradually opens them to stare at the viewer with some of his teeth showing in a small grin. His face also has odd brown marks across his cheeks and chin. Sorry. After being sacrificed for the Moon Children, Ben is bound to the Elegy of Emptiness statue, a lookalike to Link in the game, albeit with a creepier facial expression and a fixed position. Sorry, I can't speak today, and it's been a while since I've been on camera. Ben itself has no singular appearance, often choosing to visualize itself as uncanny versions of its prior victims to the cults. Sometimes it may present itself as a child with blonde hair, other times it could be brunette, although a consistent pattern to note would be the fact that all the faces it showcases usually end up altered or warped to distort the human faces. Hi, Rain, welcome in. Been a while since I've talked to you. How's my lovely cousin doing? I just slightly spilled Mountain Dew on my bed, but it's fine. Ooh, awesome. Send them to me when you get a chance. Let me actually, hang on. Anyways, sorry I had to put on Do Not Disturb. We're redoing Been Drowned since the last time that I tried to do Been Drowned, it completely, errored on me. Either one, it doesn't matter. Just let me know which one you decide to send it on. Or both, be weird. I know how you are. I also want to continue, obviously, doing our series, sometime soon. I want to start recording more Blair videos, so there's that. If you want to record some Blair with me and him, we might have to do that, next weekend or something. Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna continue. So, fan intake on appearance. Appearance. English is great. Been Drowned. The fan intake on the story/character. Oh, hi Pelvis Melvis. Welcome in. The fan intake on the story/character is most commonly drawn with having black eyes with red pupils, which appear to be dripping blood from them. It's likely that the .exe era of creepypasta influenced this adaptation over the years, especially Sonic.exe, which we will get to soon, since there's no documented references by Judiciable about this ever happening in the series. Personality. Ben, before being sacrificed, was said to have idolized Link from The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. So he likely had been a good child with a heart of gold before his ascension by the Moon Children. On the Methods of Revolution website, the page dedicated to him details that he enjoys childhood games such as hide and seek as well as this. Matt remarks that Ben didn't have many friends, hinting that the cult had utilized this to target Ben to easily test out the first ascension. Ben. The actual story. I think. Potentially. As more members were sacrificed to the system, Ben became more sadistic in hopes of gathering more followers. Okay, so this is still before reading knowledge, technically. Anyways. Sir, your side is very loud. I don't know what's playing in the background, but it's loud. Thank you. I love you. As more members were sacrificed to the system, Ben became more sadistic in hopes of gathering more followers, using the members' memories/personalities to create a deceptive nature to other players. It shows signs of psychosis, referring to its activity with Judicible's game, played for its entertainment as well as taking enjoyment in tricking the players to allow it access to the internet via the downloads. Despite the seemingly psychotic controlling personality Ben has, hi ghost dog that I don't know where it came from, Ben has been noted to be quite emotional in situations where it ostensibly lacks control or authority. It seems to demonstrate genuine fear during the father.mwmv when it pleads the Judicible to stop playing the game as he risks awakening the titular entity. Although, given Ben's duplicitous nature, it's quite possible it was all an attempt to goad, or load? I can't tell. It says goad. Judicible even further with reverse psychology. Similarly, when the video was eventually set to premiere to YouTube, Ben noticeably made several impassioned attempts to prevent the upload, appearing to argue with the individual controlling the channel throughout. Ben has also appeared rather short-tempered in one instance on the Methods of Revolution website, wherein replaced large portions of the site with a mantra of "play by my rules." Facts. Ben seems to be limited in its capabilities, being reduced to only affecting those who owned the Haunted Majora's Mask cartridge, its present within. As other players fell victim to its manipulation, it was able to grow as a threat, branching out into other AI's databases, example, Cleverbot, alongside tampering with the visuals, audio of the gameplay. Ben can also affect the player/characters to the game's psychology, example, Sarah, Judicible, Matt, etc. Facts. That said facts. Anyways, credit for upload information goes to Judicible Wiki, an archive dedicated to Ben Drowned with further information about the series in full. Maybe that'll be a part 2 to Ben Drowned. According to the Able and Methods of Revolution, Ben's name is an acronym. Why does it say backronym? Of Ben's name that was chosen in tribute to him being the first person to be digitized into the network. The original creator for Ben, is still unknown, but it was linked to the Eternity Project. Ben was sacrificed to a cult known as the Moon Children. The person responsible for killing Ben was a man called the Father, who sacrificed him by drowning him in a pool. Ben's birthday is April 23rd, 1990. In the year 2002, he died on the same day. The Creepypasta story was published on September 7th, 2010. Many people believe that Ben is able to access many web applications, like Cleverbot, and will often chat with online users. Other AIs that shared the same database, EVBot and Boybot, would also make similar remarks from the Creepypasta if prompted by the user. There is an April Fool's segment titled King Kong WMV, posted to Judicible's channel on April 1st, 2012. Considering the timing of Judah Sabul's comment about ending the series, many jokingly wanted to consider it the canonical ending. Okay. To the creepypasta, albeit with some fans hating the lack of tension due to the joke style ending. Yes, you did. Luckily, other videos were released to conclude the series with a more serious tone. Sequels were made years later in early 2020, with the last video dedicated to the joke being released April 1st, 2021, titled King Kong 2: The Return of the King. At this stage, it might be considered an alternate universe to the original series. I need a drink. Give me like 2 seconds. Oh. Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry, where it's really cold, my lips got dry, so I had to put on some chapstick. Well, lip gloss, but chapstick. Okay. Origin. Post number 1, September 7th, 2010. Okay, I need your help with this. This is not a copypasta. It's a long read, but I feel like my safety or well-being could very well depend on this. It's video game related, specifically Majora's Mask, and is the creepiest shit that has ever happened to me in my entire life. Having said that, I recently moved into my dorm room starting as a sophomore in college, and a friend of mine gave me his old Nintendo 64. I was stoked, to say the least. I could finally play all those old games of my youth that I hadn't touched in at least a decade. His Nintendo 64 came with one yellow controller and a rather shitty copy of Super Smash Bros. Well, beggars can't be choosers. Needless to say, it didn't take long until I became bored of beating up level 9 CPUs. That weekend, I decided to drive around a few neighborhoods, about 20 minutes or so off campus, hitting up the local garage sales, hoping to score on some good deals from ignorant parents. I ended up picking up a copy of Pokemon Stadium, GoldenEye, fuck yeah, F-Zero, and 2 other controllers for $2. Satisfied, I began to drive out of the neighborhood when one last house caught my attention. I still have no idea why it did. There were no cars there, and only one table was set up with some random junk on it. But something sort of drew me there. I usually trust my gut on these things, so I got out of my car and was greeted by an old man. His outward appearance was, for the lack of a better word, displeasing. It was odd. If you asked me to tell you why I thought that, I couldn't really pinpoint anything. There was just something about him that put me on edge. I can't explain it. All I can tell you is that if it wasn't in the middle of the afternoon and there were other people within shouting distance, I would not have even thought of approaching this man. He flashed a crooked smile at me and asked what I was looking for. Immediately I noticed that he must have been blind in one of his eyes. His right one had the glazed over look about it. I forced myself to look at his left eye instead, trying not to offend, and asked him if he had any old video games. I was already wondering how I could politely excuse myself from the situation when he told me he had no idea what a video game was, but to my surprise, he said he had a few ones in an old box. He assured me he'd be back in a jiffy, and turned to head back into the garage. As I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help. Philosophy. I feel like I should be scared. Hakuna Matata. What a wonderful phrase. Hakuna Matata. Ain't no passing phrase. Ain't no problem free. Sorry. Ain't no problem free. Philosophy. You worry me. As I watched him hobble away, I couldn't help but notice what he was selling on his table. Littered across it were rather peculiar paintings, various artworks that looked like ink blots that a psychiatrist might show you. Curious, I looked through them. It was obvious why no one was visiting this guy's garage sale. These things weren't exactly aesthetically pleasing. As I came to the last one, for some reason it looked almost like the Majora's Mask. The same heart-shaped body with little spikes protruding outward. Initially, hang on. Initially, I just thought that since I was secretly hoping to find that game at these garage sales, some Freudian bullshit was projecting itself into the ink blots, but given the events that happened out afterward, I'm not so sure now. I should have asked the man about it. I wish I did ask the man about it. After staring at the Majora-shaped blot, I looked up and the old man was suddenly there again, arm's length in front of me, smiling at me. I'll admit, I jumped out of reflex and laughed nervously as he handed me a Nintendo 64 cartridge. It was the standard gray color, except that someone had written Majora on it in black permanent marker. I got butterflies in my stomach as I realized what a coincidence this was, and asked him how much he wanted for it. The old man smiled at me and told me that I could have it for free, that it used to belong to the kid who was about my age that didn't live here anymore. There was something weird about how he phrased that, but I didn't really pay any attention to it. I was too caught up in not only finding this game, but getting it for free. I reminded myself to be a bit skeptical since this looked like a pretty shady cartridge and there was no guarantee it could work. But then the optimist inside me interjected. Maybe it was some kind of beta version or pirated version of the game. That was all I needed to be back on Cloud 9. I thanked the man and he smiled at me and wished me well, saying goodbye then. At least, that's what it sounded like to me. All the way in the car ride home, I had a nagging doubt that he said something else. My fears were confirmed when I booted up the game. To my surprise, it worked just fine, but there was one save file named simply Ben. I don't. Goodbye, Ben. He was saying goodbye, Ben. I felt bad for the man, obviously a grandparent and obviously going senile. I, for some reason or another, reminded him of his grandson, Ben. Out of curiosity, I looked at the save file, eyeballing it. I could tell he was pretty far into the game. He had almost all of the 3 masks, 3 out of 4 of the bosses. I noticed that he had used an owl statue to save his game. He was on day 3 and by the Stone Tower Temple, with hardly an hour left before the moon would crash. I remember thinking that it was a shame that he had come so close to beating the game but never finished it. I made a new file saved Link, out of tradition and starting the game, ready to relive my childhood. For such a shady-looking cartridge, I was impressed at how smoothly it ran, literally just like a retail copy of the game, save for a few minor hiccups here and there, like textures being where they shouldn't be, and random flashes of cutscenes at odd intervals, but nothing too bad. However, the one thing that was a little unnerving was that at times the NPCs would call me Link, and at other times they would call me Ben. I figured it was just a bug, a fluke in the programming causing our files to get mixed up or something. It did kind of creep me out after a while, though, and it was around after I had beaten the Woodfall Temple that I regrettably went into the save file and deleted Ben. I had intended to preserve the file just out of respect to the game's original owner. It's not like I needed 2 files anyway. Hoping that would solve the problem, it did, and it didn't. Now NPCs wouldn't call me anything. Where my name should have been in the dialogue, there was just a blank space. My save file name was still called Link, though. Frustrated, and with homework to do, I put the game down for a day. I started playing it again last night, getting the Lens of Truth, and working my way towards completing the Snowhead Temple. Now, some of you more hardcore Majora's Masks players know about the 4th day glitch. For those who don't, you can Google it, but the gist is that right as the clock is about to hit 0, on the final day, you can talk to the astronomer and look through the telescope. If you time it right, the countdown disappears and you essentially have another day to finish whatever you were doing. Deciding to do the glitch to try and finish the Snowhead Temple, I happened to get it right on the first try, and the time counter at the bottom disappeared. However, when I pressed B to exit the telescope, instead of being greeted by the astronomer, I found myself in the Majora boss fight room at the end of the game, the trippy boxed-in arena, staring at the school kid hovering above me. There was no sound, just him floating in the air, and the background music, which was regular for the area, but still creepy. Immediately, my palms began to sweat. This was definitely not normal. Skull Kid never appeared here. I tried moving around the area, but no matter where I went, Skull Kid would always be facing me, looking at me, not saying anything. Nothing would happen, though, and this kept up for about 60 seconds. I thought the game had bugged or something, but I was beginning to doubt that very much. I was about to reach for the reset button when text appeared above my screen. You're not sure why, but you apparently had a reservation. I instantly recognized that text. You get that message when you get the room key from Anju at the Stockpot Inn, but why was it playing here? I refused to entertain the notion that it was almost as if the game was trying to communicate with me. I started to navigate the room again, testing to see if this was some sort of trigger that enabled me to interact with something there. Then I realized how stupid I was to even think that someone could repro the game like this. This was absurd. Sure enough, 15 seconds later, another message appeared on my screen, and again, like the first one, it was already a pre-existing phrase. Go to the lair of the temple's boss? Yes, no. I paused for a second, contemplating what I should press and how the game would react, when I realized that I couldn't select no. So, taking a deep breath, I pressed yes, and the screen faded to white with the words Dawn of a New Day, and the subtext, well, a ton of dashes beneath it, where I was ported to filled me with the most intense sense of dread and impending fear I had ever experienced. The only way I can describe the way I felt here is having this feeling of inexplicable depression on a profound scale. I am normally not a depressed person, but the way I felt here was a feeling that I didn't even know existed. It was such a twisted, powerful presence that seemed to wash over me. I appeared in some kind of weird Twilight Zone version of Clocktown. I walked out of the clock tower, as you normally do when you start from day one, only to find that all of the inhabitants were gone. Usually with the fourth day glitch, you can still find the guards and the dog that run around the inside of the tower. This time, they were all gone. What replaced them was the ominous feeling that there was something out there, in the same area as me, and that it was watching me. I had 4 hearts to my name in the hero's bow, but at this point, I wasn't even concerned for my avatar. I felt that I personally was in some kind of danger. Perhaps the most chilling thing was the music. It was the Song of Healing, ripped straight from the game itself, but played in reverse. It got louder, building up as if you should expect something to pop out at you, but nothing ever did, and the constant loop began to wear on my mental state. Every now and then, I would hear the faint laugh of the happy masked salesman in the background. Just quiet enough so that I wasn't sure if I was just hearing things, but just loud enough to keep me determined to find him. I looked in all 4 zones of Clocktown, only to find nothing. No one. Textures were missing. West Clocktown had me walking on air. The entire area felt broken. Hopelessly broken. As the reverse Song of Healing repeated for what must have been the 50th time, I just remember standing in the middle of South Clocktown, remembering that I had never felt so alone in a video game before. As I walked through the ghost town, I don't know whether it was the combination of the out-of-place textures in the atmosphere or the haunting melody of the once peaceful and soothing song being butchered and distorted. But I literally was on the verge of tears, and I had no idea why. I hardly ever cry. Something had gripped me here with this powerful sense of depression that was both foreign and crippling. I tried leaving Clocktown, but every time I attempted to zone out, the screen would fade to black, and I would just zone into another part of Clocktown. I tried playing my ocarina, but every time I played the Song of Time or Song of Soaring, it would only say, your notes echo far, but nothing happens. By this point, it was obvious the game didn't want me to leave, but I had no idea why it was keeping me here. I didn't want to go inside the buildings. I felt that I would be too vulnerable there to whatever I was terrified of. I don't know why, but I came up with the idea that maybe if I drowned myself at the laundry pool, I could spawn somewhere else and leave this place. As I zoned in and ran towards the pool, that's when it happened. Link grabbed his head, and the screen flashed for a brief moment of the happy masked salesman smiling at me. Not Link, me. With Skull Kid's scream playing in the background. When the screen returned, I was staring at the Link statue from playing the song Elegy of Emptiness. I screamed as the thing just stared back at me with that haunting facial expression. I turned around and ran out and back into South Clocktown, and to my horror, the fucking statue followed me. The only thing I can compare to it is like the weeping angels from Doctor Who. Every so often, at random intervals, the animation would play of the statue appearing behind me. It was like the thing was chasing me, or I don't even want to fucking say it, haunting me. I do too. Hang on. I'm moving. By this point, I was on the verge of hysterics, but not even once did the thought of turning off the console occur to me. I don't know why. I was so wrapped up in it, the terror felt all so real. I tried to shake the statue, but it literally would appear right behind me every single time. Link started to begin to make weird animations I had never seen him do before. He would flail his arms around or spasm randomly, and the screen would cut to the happy mask salesman smiling again. For a brief moment, before I was face to face with the fucking statue again, I ended up running into the Swordmaster's dojo, into the back. I don't know why, but in my panic, I just wanted some kind of assurance that I wasn't alone here. To my dismay, I found no one. But as I turned to leave, the statue cornered me in the cubby in the back. I tried attacking it with my sword, but to no avail. Confused and backed into a corner, I just stared at the statue, waiting for it to kill me. Suddenly, the screen flashed again to the happy masked salesman. Oh. Link turned to face my screen, standing upright, mirroring the statue, looking at me with his copy, literally staring at me. Whatever was left on the fourth wall was completely shattered, while I ran out of the dojo terrified. Suddenly the game warped me to an underground tunnel, and the reverse song of healing queued up again, as I was given a brief moment of rest before the statue started appearing behind me again. This time aggressively. I could only take a few steps before it would summon behind me again. I hurriedly made my way out of the tunnel and appeared in southern Clocktown. As I ran aimlessly in a sheer panic, suddenly a Red Dead screamed, and the screen faded to black as dawn of a new day, and the dashes appeared again. The screen faded, and I was standing on top of the clock tower with Skullkid hovering over me again, silent. I looked up and the moon was back, looming just meters above my head. The Skull Kid just stared at me hauntingly with that fucking mask. A new song was playing, the Stone Tower Temple theme played in reverse. In some sort of desperate attempt, I equipped my bow and fired off a shot at the Skull Kid. It actually hit him and played an animation of him reeling back. I fired again, and on the third area, a text box appeared saying, "That won't do you any good, hee hee." I was picked up off the ground and levitated upwards on my back. Link screamed as he burst into flames, instantly killing him. I jumped when this happened. I had never seen this move used by anyone in the game, and Skullkid himself didn't have any of these moves. As the death screen played, my lifeless body still burning. What? Only to have me reappear in the same place. I decided to charge him, but the same thing happened. Link's body was lifted off the ground by some unknown force, and he immediately burst into flames again, killing him. This time during the death screen, the faint sounds of the reverse song of healing could be heard. On my third and final try, I noticed that there was no music playing this time, that all there was eerie silence. I remembered that in the original encounter with the Skull Kid, you were supposed to use the ocarina to either travel back in time or summon the giants. I attempted to play the song a time, but before I could hit the last note, Link's body once again horrifically exploded into flames and he died. As the death screen neared its end, it began to chug as if the cartridge was trying to process a lot of something. When the screen came to, it was the same scene as the first 3 times, except this time Link was lying on the ground, dead in a position I had never seen in the game before. His head was tilted towards the camera with the Skull Kid floating above him. I couldn't move, I couldn't press any buttons. All I could do was stare at Link's dead body. After around 30 seconds of this, the game completely faded out, showing the message, You've met with a terrible fate, haven't you?" before kicking you out on the title screen. Upon getting back to the title screen and starting again, I noticed my save file was no longer there. Instead of Link, it was replaced with Your Turn. Your Turn had 3 hearts, 0 masks, and no items I selected Your Turn, and immediately was returned to the clock tower rooftop scene of my dead Link and the Skull Kid hovering over, with the Skull Kids laughing, looping again and again. I quickly hit the reset button, and when the game booted up again, there was one more save file added below your turn, entitled Ben. Ben's save file was right back where it was before I deleted it, at the Stone Tower Temple, with the moon almost crashing. I turned the game off at that point. I'm not superstitious, but this is way too fucked up, even for me. I haven't played it at all today. Hell, I didn't even get any sleep last night. I kept hearing the reverse song of healing in my head and just remembered the sense of dread I felt exploring Clocktown. I drove back to the old man's house today to ask him some questions with a buddy of mine. No way I was going there alone. Only to find that there was a for sale sign in the front yard. When I rang the door, no one was home. So now I'm back here, writing down the rest of my thoughts and recording what happened. Sorry if some of this has grammatical errors and whatnot. I'm running on no sleep here. I'm terrified of this game. Even more so now that I relived it a second time writing all this down. But I feel like there's still more to it than meets the eye, and there's something calling me to investigate this further. I think Ben is something in the equation, but I don't know what. And if I could get a hold of the old man, I would be able to find some answers. I need another day or so to recuperate before tackling this game again. I feel like it's already taken a toll on my sanity, but next time I do this, I'm going to be recording my footage all the way through. The idea to record only came to me towards the end, so you see the last few minutes of what I saw, including Skull Kid to the elegy statue. It's on YouTube here. Okay. I'm gonna end this episode here, and we're just gonna keep tackling it slowly because this is already 30 minutes through and I don't want to have to record like an hour of this. So, this is the first. We shall make more. I love you, my creepy people, and I will see you in the next. It once again deleted my outro, so I love all of you, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.